Hello. Hi.
Welcome to the chalkboard. I'm Ashley.
I'm Lily.
We're so glad that you guys are here.
So, episode 2.
They stuck with us through episode
I'm
1.
already crying. Oh my god, I'm emotional. I'm so happy we're doing this.
My gosh, me too. We might have said...
Kelly, if you're listening or watching, you get it. You get it.
Right. I like to cry sometimes. No, I'm getting better. I'm crying.
It's
more.
because Ashley cries when she laughs.
Mm-hmm.
So
I get a lot of... Like, my tear ducts get a lot of action.
Alright. Anyway.
Alright. Anyways. Lily, what are we talking about today?
Alright, so we're gonna start off with a little hot take.
Oh, that's right.
How late is too late to say Happy New Year? Because right now, today is January 12th or 11th? 11th.
I don't have a watch on it.
So, you know, I'd love to hear your take first. Or I can share mine. Up to you.
We were talking about this at work this week, and I feel like it's too late now. Like, it's too late. And I've gotten a few work emails, and people are still saying Happy New Year. I'm like, okay, how long are we going to do this for? I feel like...
I'm sorry, had you gone?
Am I boring you?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like... This is tough. I feel like January 7th might be my last day that I could say. Because it's like, that's a solid week. You know, you're getting back in the groove of things.
Yeah.
But like, the first work week of the new year is over. We shouldn't be saying it anymore.
I'm very pro all of January.
All of January is crazy.
Like, if I haven't seen you at all, or talked to you at all this year, it's Happy New Year. Okay. You know?
Alright. I mean, this is good. I feel like communication. Healthy
communication.
Healthy arguments.
Healthy conflict. Healthy, you don't have to have the same opinion as your best friend.
This is true.
Although she's definitely wrong. You should just be saying Happy New Year all the time.
Okay. Well, this is why we work so well together, because I feel like we have things that we agree on and we have things that we don't. And on this one, I happen to be right, but okay.
It's fine.
It's fine. So I'm not really that passionate about it. It's okay.
No, but I think I'm just like I want something to say to people, and I don't always want to be like, hey, how's your day going? Like somebody's day could be going really crappy. It's just so much easier to be like Happy New Year or Merry Christmas or as that is.
I mean, it's definitely too late to be saying Merry Christmas.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. Just making sure.
But you know, I mean, like, you know, Happy Valentine's Day. I don't know. I love holidays.
I will say
I buy into the hype.
I will say in my office, which shout out to the office crew if you're watching, we have a whiteboard up and the kids decorated for each holiday. So right now we still have Christmas up, which like feels a little wrong. So I asked them yesterday, I was like, guys, I think it's time. What's next? And they said, are you crying?
I was yawning again. Not breathing enough.
And I said Valentine's Day. Or no, they said Valentine's Day, which like makes sense. I mean, February 14th is almost a month away.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think it's okay to say Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Not anytime soon, but...
No. I think Valentine's Day is only good for the day of.
The day of, yeah. Because it's kind of weird to say that. If it's not actually Valentine's Day.
Happy New Year, though, up until the 13th of February.
My gosh.
No, kidding. Right. It's a little too far.
Anyways, back to what we're here to talk about
Back
today.
to the chalkboard.
Back to the chalkboard that is still non-existent.
Yeah.
We thought that it'd be fun today to talk about finding our purpose in life. We both kind of spoke on that at the end of the last episode with the different things that the Lord is teaching us right now in our season of life. And so I think there's a lot that is with that, kind of finding your purpose and your calling. I mean, yes, that there's work and your career, but it's also relationships and all the other things that are happening in your life. So
there's so much.
I'm excited for this one.
Yeah. And we're obviously experts in purpose in life.
I've never made a mistake in my life.
Asterisk. Sarcasm. Asterisk.
We also are very sarcastic, so get ready for that.
Good luck. Yeah. What do you feel like is, like, when you wake up in the morning, like, something that drives you?
That's good. I think I definitely learned this week. We had a lot of snow here in Charlottesville, so I was stuck in the house a lot, and that was tough because something that really drives me is just face-to-face interactions with people and just getting to know people on a deeper level. I love when kids come in my office at work and want to just let out whatever's happening in their lives, and it could be good, it could be bad, but I like live for those moments. I love that, and I love getting to see the girls that I'm coaching in basketball right now. I love getting to see my coworkers who just bring a lot of joy in my life. I feel very fortunate to be in such a good, healthy work environment. Yeah. So I think for me, that's a big thing, just getting to see people and to have those interactions. Like, I really love that part of my life. Like, just looking forward to seeing people.
Yeah. When you haven't been in seasons of your life like this, where you're enjoying what you're doing and you're around, like, what is the motivating force to, like, showing up and showing up well?
It definitely makes it tougher. My job before this, I was not super happy. I enjoyed the work that I was doing. I was a speech therapist before this, and I loved the kids I was working with. I loved the families, but it was tough. I felt very burnt out, and so for me, even through that, I think it's knowing that there's a purpose for every season, and knowing that even if it's tough, like, the Lord had me there for a reason.
Yeah.
And it was probably to grow and to learn how to go through adversity. And thankfully, with that other job, I was around great people too. So I think the people were also a big part of that. But that's something I feel like I've learned in all seasons of life, is that adversity really is a good thing. And I have learned the most during those seasons of adversity. So in the moment, it may not feel motivating, but in the long run, that is really how you get to know the Lord and how you get to grow. And I guess my advice would be with that, don't take those moments for granted, because it may be rough in the moment, but that's where you're going to grow the most. So that could be a huge motivating force. Just knowing that you're going to get better and stronger through those moments too. Yeah. What about for you?
I feel like, I have always been someone who has, like, a lot of jobs and, like, is always like, my hand in this, my hand in that. And I've never really been, like, a one career track minded person. Just, I think I'm wired a little more, I don't know. It's hard for me to be in one place. And I'm working on that, even, like, staying in Charlottesville has been huge, and, like, staying at my church and, like, having commitment, I think, has been helpful. So I think, like, knowing that there's areas of life that I want to grow in, like commitment, I think is one thing that has helped me a lot when it comes to my purpose in life. Like, knowing that in order for me to be the most effective, I have to be a person who's healthy in a lot of areas of my life. And not to say that you have to be, like, 100%, like, whatever you feel like your best self is all the time. And, like, that's the only way you can impact people positively. It's just not true. Like, you can impact people even when you're at your lowest.
It really is about showing up.
Yeah, it's so much about showing up. And I think that for me, my biggest purpose in life has nothing to do with, like, the actual work that I'm doing. Like you said, like, you were a speech pathologist, you love that. Now you're an athletic director, you love that. For me, it's always been about how can I show people the most love. For me, I want people to see in me that it's Jesus. So it's not like it feels evangelistic, but it's not necessarily, I think the traditional sense, like, evangelism. But I feel like, my life, knowing that it matters, just like how I believe other people matter, like, my life matters. And so waking up and remembering, like, okay, today might be a tough day. Today I might do a job that I really don't love, but I also get to, like, be a smiling face or, like, the heart of Christ in a situation that might be really tough. And maybe today my job is to listen to someone, or today my job is to speak into someone, or today my job is to just show up and, like,
and that might be enough.
And, and, like, that's enough. And I feel like Romans 8:28 says, like, God works together all things for those who love him.
Yeah.
And like for his good. And so just being someone who like remembers God is working all things together for my good. Even when I don't, like you were saying, like even if you don't feel that in the moment, like not taking it for granted and like just trying to remember like, okay, I'm going to push through this and I'm going to get through this. Just like I've gotten through every other hard breakup in my life. I've gotten through hard jobs in my life. I've gotten through hard friendships in my life. And if I was able to do all of that before without all of the things that I know now, I'll be okay. Making it through the next whatever it is.
Someone told me one time, you have to know the difference between your daily job, whatever that might look like, and that could be lots of different jobs, or could be being a mom, or whatever it is, that versus your real job. And our real job is to glorify the Lord in all that we do, and to seek him first in all that we do. So that's helped me, I think, in terms of finding my purpose and my why and everything that I do, whether it's work, relationships, you know, whatever it might be, just remembering that we're here to glorify the Lord and to bring his kingdom here to earth. And I love what you said too about commitment, because I was reading something this week. I'm going through a devotional called Women of Excellence, recommended by Lily, I think your mentor.
Oh, cool.
And I think something I learned from that is it talks about how Ruth was a woman of excellence and how Boaz saw her as a woman of excellence. And it wasn't because of her reputation or anything like that. It was simply because she was loyal and committed to Naomi. And I thought about that more. I was like, it's so true, though. Like, our worldly idea of excellence is so different from the Lord's view. So, you know, Ruth very well could have stayed in where her feet were. Okay, that could have been something the Lord was calling her to. But she knew deep down the Lord was calling her to follow her mother-in-law, Naomi, and to go to Moab. And that eventually led to all these amazing things, and her, you know, walking in the path of Boaz, and him recognizing her as a woman of excellence because she had followed this direction from the Lord and followed her mother-in-law and stayed committed to her. So I love that, like, because it is true. Like, sometimes following the Lord's calling is not going to make sense. But are we willing to be committed to him? Are we willing to stay loyal to the calling we feel like he has on our lives? Are we willing to, like, put ourselves out there and take that step of faith, even if it makes zero sense in the moment? Those are traits and character traits that we. Phrase over again. Those are character traits that represent a woman of excellence in God's eyes. Yeah. And that's ultimately what we're here on earth to do.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot to take away from that story, which I really love. We can definitely dive into, like, in the future.
Maybe we go through a little bit of Ruth. I love Ruth. There's so much to learn. So much to learn. And it's such a short chapter of the Bible, but there's so much to take away from it.
There is.
Especially as a woman. Just how Ruth conducted herself and everything that she did.
Yeah. This morning, I was telling Ashley I was doing my devotionals, and I haven't shared this with Ashley yet. Just told her, like, I did my devotionals, and I felt like it really related to today's topic. But, I'll open up my little journal that my friend Kelly gave me with a little anchor on it. It's so cute. But we're kind of doing, a few of us are just, like, reading through the Bible together for the month of January. And, 2 verses out of Matthew 11 that I wrote down were, yet wisdom is justified by her deeds. And then later on it says, for I, Jesus, is speaking, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. And then Psalm 11:1, the very first line says, in the Lord I take refuge. And so kind of my takeaway from that initial one is, like, God gives us Jesus as a place to dwell and to feel safety. But then, as I was reflecting on, like, okay, how do I apply this to my life? I was just realizing, like, the last probably month and a half, I've really been thinking, why am I doing all of this? Like, and not in, like, a existential crisis way. More of, like, I keep showing up to devotionals. I keep showing up to church things, to my high school girls, to my friendships, wanting to point them to Christ. And just really finding myself, like, why am I doing all this? And I think in our last episode, the first episode,
our only other episode,
Alyssa was who I did devotionals with this morning. Ashley was talking about filling your cup, and I think with the holidays, everybody says this. With the holidays, you just get so busy and overrun because you're just like trying to do this, do that, whatever. And we've been reading Ruth's Elimination of Hurry as a small group, and like it really talks about the problem with being so hurried. It just makes you feel like you don't have time to think about anything else and whatever else is going on in your life. And so while I was taking time to think this morning, just like slow Saturday morning, no rush, just realizing like my need for Christ is so great. The whole reason I want people to like know who Jesus is because I have to remember all the time, like I need Jesus. Like Jesus is my place of safety and rest. And like, now I do want to cry actually, but like I grew up in the church, right? Like my dad was a pastor we moved here to Charlottesville so my dad could be a pastor. And my faith journey has looked like so many different things my entire life. But really, since I went to college, was when I started going to church where I was like, oh, like, this is what it's about. And I love my parents, and I really honor them, and the fact that they really did their best to raise us in the church. There were just a lot of things they didn't even know to shield us from. It really affected me, and I just didn't know that people could love well, and that there was more to, like, being a Christian, like, bringing heaven on earth, was phrasing that, like, you know, I heard really for the first time in college. And something that I quote a lot is one of the sermons that, like, I think is what revolutionized my relationship with Jesus and, like, really made me want to be committed was Andrew Gard, the pastor of Grace City in Lakeland. He said, a lot of us think at the end of our lives, we want Jesus to say, well done, good and faithful servant. But he was like, what would it look like if at the end of every day your head hit the pillow and you said, and God said to you, well done, good and faithful servant. Wow. And that really hit me because I was like,
I like that. Oh,
that means like I actually have to actively work on myself. And like actually, well, not just work on myself for me and by myself and the point of not making the point of my life like about myself, but really like, how am I relying on the Lord? Yeah. And like, how am I doing things out of that motivation and that purpose?
And that's a daily decision to make because it's not easy. I mean, it's so easy just to get skewed by the world and, like I said earlier, the world's expectations of what success looks like.
Yeah, or relationships.
Or anything. There's so much advice out there. And we're social media girlies. Like, I love Instagram, love TikTok. R.I.P. TikTok. Soon.
It's coming back.
Yeah, well. But it's really easy. I notice myself getting very influenced by the advice that's out there. And it's not good advice. It's really not.
Yeah.
And
there's so many voices. Yeah. And it's easy to say, well, you know what? Eventually I'll give my life to Christ. I have my whole life to make mistakes and do this. And, you know, at the time I was sleeping with my boyfriend and I like, you know, idolized my career and all of these things. I was like, you know, and in the name of Jesus, being like, I'd be like, oh, well, I'll just step down from leading worship while we're in this relationship because, like, I didn't want to be a hypocrite, which I'm glad I stepped down. Yeah. But also, like, I was just trying to justify it. But, like, the Bible literally says wisdom will justify itself. Yeah. And, like, so if I was to follow wisdom, then I wouldn't have to try to justify it by myself, you know. And if I go to the Lord for my identity, my place of refuge, I feel like we'll definitely dive into like more of my past relationships in the future, but in future episodes. But like a lot of the things that I was dealing with at the time were just ways that I wanted to live my life because I thought it was what was best for me. Yeah. When you really look at like what's actually best for you and like what are the constructs and like of what God thinks is best for you, it's a much better way of living. Yeah. And it makes I feel so proud of myself and my life because I can be like, oh, yeah, I might have messed up today, but it wasn't my intention to miss the mark. Right. And even if it was, like, it's nice to know that I'm actually actively trying to go back to, at the end of the day, what's this really all about?
Yeah. I mean, in Romans it says, just because we have grace from the Lord doesn't mean we keep on sinning.
Yeah.
But I think we're still going to, like, we're gonna mess up.
Yeah.
Because we're human. But I think, like you said, I love that. I've always heard, yes, when I go to heaven one day, I hope that the Lord can look at me and say, well done, good and faithful servant.
Yeah.
But thinking about that from, like, a daily perspective is so cool because it is true.
Yeah.
We should be coming to him at the end of each day, looking in the mirror and being like, was I a good and faithful servant today? Not in, like, a demeaning way.
No.
But truly taking a look at my life and evaluating the day and being thoughtful about that.
Yeah.
I think is huge because we're coming to him and saying, Lord, like, I missed the mark today. Like, you know, I messed up in this relationship, or I messed up with this in work. But I know you have grace for me. Like, you know, I ask for your forgiveness. Like, please wash me clean. New chalkboard the next day.
Exactly. So. Like, erase the chalk. Like, God is every single day. This is mercies are new every morning. That's literally God looking at the chalkboard and going, all right, like, new day. And so I think, it's not like you want to miss the mark. It's just going to...
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. What's a good analogy? Like Michael Jordan shooting baskets. He's not going to make every basket, even though he's trying really hard to.
Yeah.
Wow. Good analogy.
Good analogy.
Can we
Is that analogy or metaphor?
Wait, what's that? That's too bad, Dapper. Whatever. Metaphor, analogy, doesn't matter. But I feel like I feel like knowing that Jesus loves me.
Yeah.
Day in and day out, no matter what. Mm-hmm. But then Jesus also wants me to be honest and come, because it's not worth living a life full of the wall. That's where the wall comes in. Like, I've lived so long, so many seasons of my life with a huge wall up with God, because it's like, oh, well, like, I was justifying my own deeds. And, like, it creates a separation. And the Bible says, like, there's no separation. Let nothing separate you from the love of Christ. But we do that all the time. We built this brick contains this missing the mark, and this brick is made of missing the mark, and this brick, and then it becomes like, oh, I don't think I want God to see, even though I know God sees, and you just feel guilty. That's not God's heart for us. God's heart, God does not condemn us. God does not shame us. And so, like, truly living like, wow, it's okay if today, it didn't go as planned. God still loves me. Like, God saw the thoughts in my mind and in my heart and went, I still really love you, and, like, let's try again tomorrow. Yeah. Or let's try again later tonight. Or let's try again later today. You know? Yeah. It's like it's a beautiful, like, constant renewal. And that's why I love this idea of the chalkboard, because it's like,
I'm loving it more and more.
Me too!
As we keep going.
It's so good. It's just, like, the perfect metaphor of, like, our lives.
And I feel like it's cool, too, that you and I kind of have different experiences with the church. And, you grew up, like you said, your dad was a pastor. My family, we went to church. I wouldn't say it was super consistent, but I had a grandmother who was just incredible and loved the Lord so much and taught me so many things. And I went to Christian elementary school growing up and got to learn about the Bible. But there's just such a difference between what I tell my kids all the time, like, relationship versus religion. Yeah. Like, they're just so different. And if you can see the Lord as, like, a loving father who wants to have a relationship with us and isn't condemning us, isn't judging us, but truly, like, wants us to come to him and have a conversation with him and tell him everything that we're thinking and going through and ask him for forgiveness. Like, that's the relationship that he wants. It's not, he doesn't want us to have walls up with him, like you said, and it's not about these rules and regulations and laws, like, and I hope that that's something that can be taken away from this podcast, too, is, like, it's easy to see religion in that way, where, like, God is going to be mad at me if I do this and that, and I can't come to him with these things because I'm embarrassed, I feel guilty, whatever. Like, no, that's not what a relationship with the Lord is like at all.
Yeah, that's not his heart for us. Yeah. Well, this was another amazing episode.
I mean, honestly, 12 out of 10. Yeah. Any takeaways?
I think my biggest takeaway is just maybe to take some time this week to, sit there. And I know it's always really hard to find 30 minutes, an hour to just sit. Yeah. But don't be afraid of the silence, and don't be afraid to maybe turn on some worship music and, like, really reflect on how loved you are. Because I think that's really important for our walks with Christ and ourselves. Like, to remember, like, we're loved. And so our purpose, our jobs might look like things that we don't necessarily want to be doing, but I think that there's so much fulfillment doesn't always and maybe shouldn't come from just our careers.
Yeah. Or school or whatever.
Yeah, school and there's obviously you want to do well and you want to do things that you love and are passionate about. But what if, maybe take some time to think about what if it looks like more than that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, growing up playing sports, like basketball was kind of my identity for a long time. And my success on the court determined how I thought about myself, if I felt worthy or not. And it's been a lot of learning since then, since graduating college and being done playing basketball, starting a career.
D1 athlete over here.
I
was talking about me. But.
Right. Obviously. No, I think since then, just like learning how to find my purpose and my worth and my identity outside of that. And that's true, like Lily just said, whether it's your career, school, sports, whatever it may be. Just taking time to really reflect on your identity in the Lord. So I think that'd be my takeaway too. Yeah. Lily gave me some advice a week and a half ago, maybe. Oh. We were at dinner together with my family and she could tell that I was off. I've been having like a really anxious week and was really struggling, but trying to show up. And I knew that the Lord was honoring that. Like I was trying to show up for my family, for my friends, but I was really struggling that specific day. So I got home and I texted her and said, like, I wasn't doing well. And she was like, okay, like, do you want to talk about it? And I was like, I think I need to just be alone right now. And that's something old Ashley would have never done just because I would have spiraled and tried to call my friends and get advice and everything else. But take 30 minutes if you're feeling that way this week. Or even if you're not, and just really sit with the Lord. I just started blasting worship music. Yeah. And had no distractions. Yeah, it's so nice. I had my journal next to me and I had my Bible next to me. And I don't even really think I opened the Bible until the end of that time because I really... Alright, well, we had a little technical difficulties, so I'll just finish what I was saying. But I was talking about this time just alone with the Lord a week and a half ago. And I had my Bible next to me, but I don't even think I opened it till the end of my time just sitting there because I was just really trying to listen to the Lord's voice. And I think that was the first time I had done that in a while because it's so easy just to go to friends or to go to social media or family to ask for advice or even just to let everything out. And those aren't bad things. I mean, Lily's a perfect example. She's a great friend that has very biblical advice. She knows the word and she's gonna give me great advice, but that's still not going to the Lord first. Yeah. And I don't mean that in a bad way at all. Like it's not. And so I guess I would challenge you guys to, whether you're going through an anxious day or a bad day, whatever, or even if you're not, just sit with the Lord and listen to his voice, because I know that was super helpful for me, just being able to move forward and kind of leave that bad day in the past. So I think that would be my advice for the week.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us for episode 2 of The Chalkboard. We'll see you on episode 3.
Decided we're going to do 3s, like Michael Jordan.